Welcome to There is a Method to the Madness. My name is Rob Maxwell and I'm an exercise physiologist and personal trainer. I'm the owner of Maxwell's Fitness Programs and I've been in business for the past 28 years since 1994. Today's podcast is about body types and genetics, and specifically body types regarding genetics. I spoke about on the last podcast that I was going to get into different things regarding motivation and why people drop out and all those kind of things, and that's what this week is about. So with that, this is going to be, well, I guess what we would call the first installment, and that is basically knowing who you are. What is your body type? So believe it or not, there are body types. There are genetic frames. Now, the body types that we speak of, the three major ones are ectomorphic, and an ectomorph is basically tall and skinny, very thin boned, and think of a long distance runner. Think of a long distance runner. That probably would be the best description. Think about your high school class who is always just kind of tall and thin. I'm going to get into a lot more about this, so don't just assume because they might gain weight later in life that they're not an ectomorph. No, this is body type. This is bone structure. This is bone structure. All right, the next one, and again, it's not in the order of importance or in the order of who's better, because there is no such thing as better. All three can be absolutely taken to their fullest potential. So the next one is a mesomorph. A mesomorph tend to be in between, but that can be a little deceiving. But a mesomorph is essentially more muscular in their frame. More muscular. They tend to add muscle fairly easily. They tend to stay pretty lean, so when they gain weight, it tends to be muscle. That is a mesomorph. Think of a bodybuilder, think of a running back in football, think of a lot of today's basketball players. They're very muscular. Think of Michael Jordan. Think of a linebacker in football, a wide receiver in football. So those are all mesomorphs, all right? Finally, last but not least, and not worst and not best, we have the endomorph. Endomorphic are larger in their body types. They tend to become more obese, tend to be fatter, tend to have more subcutaneous body fat. Now, the key to that was I said they tend to become more obese. An endomorph does not have to become obese. They might always carry slightly more body fat than some of their counterparts in the mesomorphs and the ectomorphs, but that does not mean that they can't be healthy and of a pretty normal body weight. They just tend to carry more weight. All right. Now, how do you know what you are? The big key is that don't just assume because of necessarily body sizes as people get older. An ectomorph can add body fat and look relatively fat to you, all right? I'm using this term fat, not derogatory, but so we can honestly just talk about what it is that's carrying more weight than we need to. A mesomorph can absolutely get fatter if they eat too much. They tend to be more muscular, but they also tend to have body fat on them if they eat too much. Think of a bodybuilder that is what they call in their off season. They tend to be a little bit bigger, fatter. Think of some of the athletes you may like when they come to training camp. They might tend to get a little bit fatter. So every body type can get thinner and fatter. So don't just look at somebody and go, oh wow, they're shredded, they're probably a mesomorph. Not necessarily. This is body types, all right? These are different levels. This isn't like black or white, all right? Endomorphs, all right? Don't just go, oh wow, man, he's just big. He's an endomorph. Again, it could be that the fact that they're eating too much at the time, we don't know. All right, now no question that the endomorph is the one of the group that tends to carry more body fat. All right, so really this is about bone structure. You can look at your wrist and ankles and determine your bone structure pretty well. A couple of the tests that you can use, they're not perfect though, so sometimes I hesitate telling people they're not perfect, but if you take your middle finger and thumb and wrap it around your wrist and see basically where they land, it gives you a good idea. If they overlap pretty significantly, most likely you're an ectomorph with very small bone structure. If they meet in the middle, most likely you're more mesomorphic, more muscular. If you have trouble reaching your middle finger to your thumb, most likely you're more endomorphic. But again, swelling can take into account on this. Different, increasing your body fat at a certain time can increase this, all right? So we have to understand that we are what we are, and it's not too common that we see perfect examples of the three. Somebody might more be ecto-meso, which means they're somewhere in between. Somebody might be meso-endo, so they're somewhere in between. So it's not like we see too many perfect examples, although, perfect examples in some of the cases can be an advantage for sure. Like a perfect mesomorph might really be suited for professional football in the faster positions like wide receiver and running back and defensive back, possibly linebacker. Perfect examples of ectomorph might be, the person is really geared towards long distance running or other endurance sports, as long as they're also fortunate enough to have a high genetic VO2 max as well. So that's another genetic component. But so it can be a good thing to be to the extremes on these. But most likely you're not. Most likely you lean more in one direction and not the other, and it's important to know that. So for me, I definitely tend to be more mesomorphic. I can be thin, so I would say more ectomeso, but leaning more towards mesomorphic. I've done some bodybuilding, which really you're not going to do unless you have some metamorphic genes, some tendencies, because again, that's the one where you tend to gain more muscle. Now, endomorphs, the larger body types, can also gain muscle, but they also gain fat, and so it's harder for them to get lean enough to compete in bodybuilding. So it's not too often that you'll see endomorphs go into bodybuilding. They'd have to be at the leanest end of being an endomorph to do that. Again, that does not imply they can't be in good shape, because bodybuilding is not the epitome of being in good shape. I'm just using that as an example. They can be in phenomenal condition, just not lean enough to get on a bodybuilding stage, which again, that's not the epitome of fitness. It might be a good thing, but body fat is just one level of fitness. It's just one component. So I'm not trying to state that it's a good thing at all. And it's hard for a pure ectomorph to build enough muscle to actually be into bodybuilding. So, most likely I'm ecto-meso, leaning more towards the mesomorphic end. I can also, as I've said, be thinner, and so I can be pretty decent doing endurance events like triathlon and running and all that. So, I'm kind of in that meso group, ecto-meso group, so I know who I am. Which means that, like, let's say I wanted to take the bodybuilding, career at one point, which again, I can't say I never would want to. I don't foresee where I would want it to. But anyway, like, to me, it was a goal, and kind of put some demons from childhood more than anything. But let's say I did. Well, I couldn't have, because bodybuilders need to be able to put on a lot of mass. And I never took steroids. And by the way, steroids, I'm not an advocate of. I think they're not worth the risk for anybody, So I'm not at all condoning them when I state this, but too often they get too much credit, and people are like, well, that guy's taking steroids. It's like, He might be, but he also has to have the genetic body type to build muscle. You can just take steroids to be an endomorph, and all you're going to see is a very, very swollen endomorph. You can take steroids to be an ectomorph, and you may not notice anything except maybe a swollen neck and zits on their back. That's about it. So they get too much credit. I hear that a lot in my world, and again, there is a method to the madness. We need to understand what's going on. I too often get into silly debates on Twitter about that with sports when people are saying, oh, so-and-so took steroids, so it takes away their home run record. And I'm thinking, steroids don't do anything to help you hit a baseball. I mean, they might have, but this doesn't have anything to do with what they did. I mean, they might have taken them to extend their career because they wanted more muscle and, or they wanted to look good in their jerseys. I don't know. But to say that it helped their baseball career, that's just not true. I mean, it's just not true. Taking speed would help them more, which a lot of them do, but that's not on the ban list, sadly. So anyway, again, I'm not an advocate. It's just we need to understand that without the body type, they're not going to do much benefit. Now, with the body type, they absolutely do. They'll put more muscle on you. So me being sort of an ecto-meso at the lower end of the meso scale, there's no way I could have taken bodybuilding to any higher levels. Couldn't put on enough muscle. I mean, at my heaviest, when I was maybe in my mid-20s, I was 200, 205 pounds, pretty lean, and you're thinking, that's pretty big. No, it's not. These guys are big, they're shorter than me, and I was like 6 foot, so, these guys that are professionals are like 5'6" and 240-pound monsters, there's no way I could have put on that kind of muscle. I had all I had in my mid-20s. That's when your testosterone levels are at your highest. I, again, wasn't taking any steroids, and I doubt it would have helped me much if I did. So it is what it is. And reality is that's kind of a good thing, because then I took a turn into distance endurance stuff in college, in my graduate degree, actually, when my professors were all into it. And I thought, this sounds like a healthier, cooler lifestyle. So I started doing that. And, I was able to, again, be pretty decent, because me being a lower-end ecto-meso, I was never that big. And at that point, I was maybe 160, 70 pounds. And so that's, pretty light. And, so again, this podcast is about knowing who you are. I had to know who I was. So, I could be pretty decent. I was, felt pretty good about what I was doing. At the same time, I was not going to win a triathlon that I was doing. In your 20s, you're really at your peak in that sport. There's no way, because again, being number one, I don't think I had and have the genetic VO2 max for it. It's pretty good, but it's not superb. I think that it peaked at 65, which is pretty good, no doubt. But these guys winning races and stuff, it's peaking in the 80s, and Lance Armstrong's was as high as 91, I think. I mean, we're talking elite volumes of oxygen. That's what that stands for. The most amount of oxygen that can produce more ATP aerobically is your VO2 max. It's basically the gold standard for how cardiorespiratorily fit you are. And again, mine was pretty good, but never superb, and that's a largely genetic thing. It's mostly genetics, and that's okay. Like I said, I'll take it. It's good. And again, my goals always to be as fit as I can be. Now, of course, there's times I was like, oh man, I want to win, and I'm mad at myself for not winning an age group or even placing in an age group, which was very tough for me. But at the same time, at the end of the day, I'd go, look, you did your best. That's what counts. And being an ecto-meso, it's going to be very hard to win an endurance event. You pretty much have to be very ecto, especially at running. Swimming's a little different. And I'm going to get into this week. Like, what makes an athlete great is largely different characteristics of their physiology and body type. But to be in the sport I was in, because I'm kind of giving you a preview to all this, then you had to be more of an ecto, and I wasn't. So you're racing against people who are, 5'6" and 140-pound ectomorphs as males. Is this an excuse? Absolutely not. I'm 100%, happy with where I was, where I am. There's no question I would get pouty back in my earlier days over stuff like that. But I was always able to, at the end of the day, look at it and be realistic about, body type. So that's sort of like where I am knowing me, right? And again, I'll take it. I feel fortunate with that. It's up to me to make the best of it, because then you can be really fit with that ecto-meso body type. I'll take it. You can be, I'd like to say, I'll take it at any body type, because the reality is that you can, all right? So when we talk about where you are in fitness, you really need to analyze that. I can remember very early on in my career when I had my facility in the Spruce Creek Flying here, and I don't remember where this person found me. It was probably word of mouth. And I could tell like there was a lot of baggage when I spoke to her on the phone. And in those days, there was no cell phones, there was no internet, there's no texting, So consults were done originally on the telephone, and then bring them in to talk and see where they want to go. And she had told me that she wanted to lose weight and she had some goals and all this in mind. And I thought, okay, whatever. Good, that's what I do. So she comes down and we sit face to face, and she brings magazine covers, maybe the whole magazine, but I definitely remember magazine covers. And they were these basically swimsuit model type, really fit Sports Illustrated style. And she, first appearance, second appearance, third appearance, but she was very overweight. And she sits down and she hands me these magazine covers. It basically says, so this is what I want to do right here. This is what I want to look like. And again, she was very overweight, obese. And one thing I know is true is very empathetic. I'm very empathetic towards people. I can be very soft in that regard, and no question about it. And so I don't want listeners to think that I'm sitting here like snickering, this fitness guy looking at this. No, it wasn't that. It was, I felt awkward. I felt like, oh geez, how do I handle this? It was those feelings, and probably spoke very little until I thought about what I really wanted to say. And finally, I looked at her. I said, so, like, what was your height and weight in high school, your later years of high school, like when you were 17 or 18 years old? I don't remember what she said exactly. I mean, I remember what she said, but I don't remember exactly her statistics. But she essentially said she'd always been overweight and always, a bigger girl, so to say, And so I looked at her, I said, okay, you're not going to achieve this. How do you know? You pretty much are going to be like at your peak as far as your body type around that age of 17, 18, 19 for women, a little bit older for boys and men, because boys and men tend to be more immature by a good 3 or 4 years at that age, and probably forever. But so maybe 22, 23 for a male, 17, 18 for a woman. And I said, well, why would you think that you can now supersede any level of what you were at when you were 18 years old at your physical peak, before anything started slowing down, or before inactivity started coming, or whatever? And she accepted it pretty well. And again, I did not say this like an asshole at all. I probably said it even a little softer than that, but I wanted to make sure she was told the truth, because too many people aren't told the truth. I know too many trainers, too many, ones I don't know very well, but I watch them on social media and on the internet, and some that I do know well. And they would have told her it's doable and achievable. And you are not doing anybody any favors when you do that. Now, I will say, I don't believe I ended up working with her at all. I think she wanted somebody to tell her what she wanted to hear. I honestly don't remember. I just remember that I didn't end up working with her, and I can't remember if that was her choice or mine. I know it could have been mine because I've always had a pretty hard line on that, meaning that if I feel uncomfortable, like I think maybe there's something more going on than I can handle, and I know I thought that. I know I thought, okay, she's absolutely needs some counseling and needs some body image stuff going on. So whatever happened, I did not work with her. We definitely left pleasant, but it was like clear that I didn't think I was going to be able to help her, because if you can't get somebody beyond that thought process, there's nothing you can do. It's like, it's just wasting yours and her time. And I do remember telling her that, look, you can absolutely achieve greater fitness. You can be the best version of you. You can get down to a healthy body weight, absolutely. But she wanted to be a model with that. And it's sad, and a lot of that, happens all the time with people. And rather than just be better than where they are, they're looking at the extremes of different people. They're looking at the snapshots of people, and they're thinking, I want to achieve that. And if they can't achieve that, they're not going to try anything. And sadly, that happens too much. So we really have to look at ourselves and determine what is our body type. What is it we're trying to achieve? We can all be better at what we are, absolutely. But not everybody can have those washboard abs and all that. And let me tell you, number one, when people achieve that kind of extreme leanness as far as the washboard abs and the six pack and all that kind of stuff, again, it's a body type, number one, a more mesomorphic body type. Not even really ectomorphic. Ectomorphic, very thin midsections, but they don't tend to have the muscles that you see. So it's really the mesomorphic. When you see it to that level, and it's typically during a period of time, maybe in the year that they're training, it's typically not maintained like that all the time, nor does it need to be. All right. So keep that in mind. Oftentimes, when you look at people on the internet and social media, and especially when they're running ads, which you don't realize they're running ads, but they are, social media, Instagram, Facebook, they all boost posts and stuff. So typically the videos that are being made are a lot more prepared than you might imagine. But in any event, it's kind of like with bodybuilding, which I've had some experience with. So you cut down and get to your leanest version of yourself. That's step one during the process of getting ready for a show. Step two is you shave all your hair off your body, off your legs and all that stuff. Stomach, chest, if you have any, whatever is shaved. So that gives you another appearance of being leaner. And as you get closer, you extremely tan, and then you do the fake tan, which I think is ridiculous, but you have to do it to be competitive. But it looks so stupid, but absolutely makes you look leaner. Then you oil up as you get closer. Day of, you oil up, and it makes the muscles shine, and the camera send them at the right angles. And you cut water a couple days before, so you're a little dehydrated, and then morning of, you blow up the water and all this kind of. In other words, you basically manipulate the water cycle. So that's to get camera ready, all right? And so a lot of these people that you see as influencers on social media are essentially doing a lot of those steps, right? So they don't look like that all the time. I can remember meeting a professional bodybuilder in person, Lou Ferrigno, and he looked good. But, it was at a fitness conference thing, and he was in a polo shirt and jeans or something. He looked good. He looked like a big fit guy. But he doesn't look like you see these guys on stage. They don't stay that way all the time. So you're seeing this snapshot of that. So And again, it's too extreme. So that's the first thing you need to understand when you're looking at other people and you think you want to achieve that. Second thing you need to, and I'm going to leave you with this, I'm going to leave you to think about this today, is it going to make you happier? Did that work? I can remember when I did that bodybuilding show, my first one in my 20s, I was really glad I did it, because I do think I had some of that old, insecurity of being a overweight teenager, wanting to prove I wasn't type of thing. So it helped. But all I can remember is thinking, when I'm on the stage afterwards, and I did well, I got third place and I felt proud, and I still do. But, am I really happier than I was going into this? And in a way, no, because then you reach that pinnacle and there you still are. So if you aren't really addressing what's going on with you, the physical body is not going to take you to a different place. It's absolutely better to be fit than unfit. It's kind of like one of the people I listen to, Ryan Holiday, on his podcast says, money doesn't really make you happy, but it's better than not having money. And I love that, because it's true. It's like, no, money doesn't buy you happiness, but if you're broke, if you're homeless, well, you know what? A little bit damn sure would help. So it's kind of the same thing. It doesn't hurt. I mean, it only makes you better, but at the same time, it's not going to fix your problems. If you are insecure and you want to get fit and buff and ripped, you're not going to get secure. It's not going to happen. If you had the whole, and I see this a lot with the guys, the whole sand kicked in your face syndrome guy, he's going to start working out, he's going to get big, nobody's going to mess with him anymore. And sometimes they do get big. Oh, I've seen a lot of that, man. Whew. Man, oh man. Bodybuilders that haven't addressed that side of them are just total assholes. They're those guys you see out there and they're just raising hell because, they never got over their insecurity, and they can be some of the most insecure people on earth. Trust me, I know. So just because they put on that muscle for body armor doesn't make them strong on the inside, all right? Just because you win your age group in a 5K doesn't take away the fact that you may not like yourself, all right? So again, sometimes I think people think that it's going to fix everything, but if you don't do the inside work, it's not going to. So it starts with first real identification of what you are. What is your body type? Let's get better. And then think about, why do I want this? What is it about this I need? We all need to be more fit. We all need to be more healthy, for sure. Absolutely. If everybody did that, the world would be a better place. There's no question. But really get to the meat of the matter. Work on both. Body, mind, and spirit. You got to work on both. I believe, anyway. I try to. I implement all of it into my day. So, without further ado, let me thank our sponsors, Jonathan and Lynn Gilden at the Gilden Group at Realty Pros. They currently have over 275-star reviews on Zillow and over 100 million sold between the two of them. Their goal is to provide the highest level of customer service. And you know what? Their reviews back that up. They're fit. They are a fit family. They get after it. I promise you that. If you need any real estate help, please give Jonathan and or Lynn a call at 386-451-2412 or thegildengroup.com. Until next time, be max fit, be max